I was wrong about Pokemon Pokopia. So when I first saw this in the Nintendo Direct where it was announced, I didn't really think much of it. I think a lot of people kind of just saw this as an interesting side game, like kind of a mix of Pokemon, Dragon Quest Builders, Animal Crossing. And while I've been into Animal Crossing games in the past, never really played Dragon Quest Builders, not really a big Pokemon fan, so it's not something that really was that interesting to me. And then of course it has the $70 price tag, which for me, I don't buy a lot of games at $70. I usually like to wait for sales or just price drops, but I didn't really think this was going to be anything that special. I didn't think it was going to be a system seller. In fact, I think I specifically said this wasn't going to be a system seller, and that's the part I'm wrong about. So I haven't played this yet, so I'm not going to give my thoughts on if it's a good game or not, but I am wrong about this game not being a system seller because it really seems to be like it is. I don't have the specific Switch sales numbers, but from many different sources and people that I've seen talk about this, Switch 2s have been selling a lot more since Pokopia came out, and of course it's been pretty much impossible to get a physical game key card of this. So there's clearly something here that is really special. But first, let's talk about the supply and demand part. So for a long time, physical games have been losing market share. Most people are buying games digitally now. But with the Switch 2, we've seen now a couple times where games just are selling out and they feel impossible to get. Resident Evil Requiem came out last month, and it was impossible to get a pre-order, and the Generation Pack, I actually got a copy today. But anyway, that and physical copies of Requiem in general have just been really hard to come by. And I think that's great because I'm a big fan of physical games. I don't like to buy digital games unless there's no other choice, unless it's just super cheap. So I am glad to see that. And then the same thing with Pokopia. I looked on Amazon just out of curiosity, and it is in stock, but the issue is that it wouldn't arrive for like 2 to 3 weeks, and I don't see it in stock anywhere in stores. So even though this game is $70, which does seem expensive, it's still selling out, and it's selling entire systems. And I also said this game I don't think is worth $70, and I can't fully comment on that because I haven't played the game yet, but I can say that since so many people are really enjoying this game, this is a game you can get a lot of time out of, and I usually don't like to use that argument for justifying game prices because there's going to be games like, for something like Resident Evil Requiem, which you could beat in under 10 hours, I still felt that was worth $70 just because the experience was that great, and it was a very streamlined campaign, like there wasn't any padding or anything. And other games where you can technically get more like playtime out of, I don't think are necessarily worth more because there is a lot of padding. And once you start using that logic, you can say, well, this game takes you 100 hours to beat. Why don't we charge $150 for it? Like, I don't like that logic. But I do understand saying that if this game is that great where you're going to be playing for this much time, the higher price tag is an easier pill to swallow. For the price though, I think if you feel that this is the type of game you'd enjoy, like if you really love Animal Crossing, if you love Dragon Quest Builders, maybe if you're even a big Pokemon fan, and you feel this is a game that you'll get enough time out of, then go ahead and buy it. Now, I'm not saying this game is definitely worth the $70 because for me personally, I don't know if this is a game I'd really be able to get into. If it was $60 and I found a copy, I think I'd probably pick it up, but it's not like this is an $80 game. Like $70 has kind of become industry standard, and while I disagree with some games being $70, I can't comment for sure that this is worth it or not worth it. That's up to you to decide. I don't think there's a right answer here. Like, I say this all the time, but value is subjective. If you feel this game is worth $70, pay the $70 for it. If you don't think it's worth $70, don't pay the $70 for it. It's that simple. People get very heated on this topic and like to talk down to others for disagreeing with them, which that doesn't do anything. Just talk about what you like or what you don't like about the game, and don't attack others for liking or disliking the price. But with all that being said, Nintendo is a business and their goal is to make money. If they're selling these out, if they're selling out the physical copies, if this is one of the best-selling games on the Switch 2, then they made the right choice. And I know Game Freak's involved in the decision, the Pokemon Company, but just saying this in general, clearly the $70 was the right choice for them because they're maximizing the amount of money they can make out of it. And these are selling out everywhere. Like I'm seeing people who aren't really big fans of this genre buy this game just because of the hype around it. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't interested in trying this game out. Like, it's something that I really didn't care too much about before release, but after seeing more about it, I've gotten more interested in it. And for someone who's been looking for like a cozy game, like a game that they can sink a lot of hours into, a game that doesn't really have an ending that you could play for just as much time as you want, this could be a system seller for a lot of people. Now, this isn't going to be a system seller for everyone. It's not a 3D Mario, it's not a 3D Zelda, it's not Gen 10, which of course we know is coming out next year, but clearly there's a lot of people who are buying Switch 2s because of Pokopia, or at least are being swayed because of Pokopia. So I am very surprised about that. And I think Nintendo really needed this because their releases up until this point for the past few months haven't really been anything that notable. Like, we got Mario Tennis Fever, which people liked, but no one really talks about it anymore. It's a Mario Tennis game. There's a Switch 2 edition of Animal Crossing New Horizons. In December, there's Metroid Prime 4, which was of course really hyped up, but very controversial. Hyrule Warriors, Pokemon Legends EA, so not really any game that has really been an absolute hit in terms of critical success. Like, Pokemon Legends EA sold well, but that's a Pokemon game it's going to. It wasn't really the best received game. I know a lot of people still do like it, and I've seen people say that Nintendo was stuck in the 70s, meaning that all their games on Metacritic were just having scores in the 70s, but Pokemon Pokopia has broken that trend. It's currently at an 89, which is really high, and it's not even that it's just a high critic score, but it has an 86 for user score, which is also really high. So people really love this game. And you could say what you will about this game, about the price tag, but it was Nintendo, or I should say Game Freak, trying something new, because we hadn't gotten a Pokemon game quite like this before. It's very similar to Dragon Quest Builders, but this is, of course, a Pokemon spin on it. I don't know how much this actually affects Nintendo themselves. I don't know if they're working on any unique games right now, but I'd love to see Nintendo just do more experimental things like this. Like, this kind of came out of nowhere, it changed something up, and it's been a huge success. And I'd love to see maybe like a Mario version of this, like not the exact same game, but imagine like a Mario sim, because that's one of the few genres that we've never seen from Mario. And it doesn't need to be a sim, like it doesn't need to copy Pokopia, but if they just go into a new genre, if they try something completely new, that could be a big success for the Mario franchise. And maybe even something that's not a franchise currently. Like, remember in 2015 when we got Splatoon? That was something completely new. We never had a game from Nintendo quite like Splatoon, and now it's one of their biggest IPs, or at least one of their biggest new IPs. And Nintendo has tried to do more unique things, like we got ARMS on the Switch in 2017, and that was a fun game, wasn't anything great, but it did show that they were at least trying for something. I also really do like when they try to experiment with their IPs, because then you get something like this that becomes a system seller when people don't expect it, and there's not much else like it. Like, there's Dragon Quest Builders, but from Nintendo themselves, at least on the Switch, this is pretty unique. And of course, Pokemon is one of the biggest things in media in general. That was always going to help this game. Like, if this was a Dragon Quest Builders game, it just wouldn't be as popular. Because even though Dragon Quest is incredibly popular, it's not Pokemon. So anyway, moving on. I've had a lot of problems with Nintendo recently. I've not been a fan of a lot of their pricing decisions, and this remains to be seen. Like I said, I can't give a definitive answer as to if this is worth it or not. Let me know in the comments if you think it is. And I haven't been a fan of some of the games they've been releasing recently. At least I haven't been a fan of at least I haven't been a big fan of the games, I should say. Like, I haven't picked up Mario Tennis Fever yet because I just can't justify spending $70 on that. Metroid Prime 4 I actually thought was a solid game, but wasn't anything crazy. Like, a lot of people hate it. I thought it was a good game. So far, the only Switch 2 game that's made me say, like, wow, this is a fantastic game exclusive to Switch 2 has been Donkey Kong Bonanza. And I have been enjoying my Switch 2 because I'm playing a lot of my backlog on it. I've been playing some third-party games. So I'm happy with my Switch 2 so far, but I have wanted to see more from Nintendo. And I'm now interested in a game that I really had no interest in before. Like, I never thought I was going to be seriously interested in this. And I never thought this was going to be a system seller, but here we are. I'm sure there's people who hate this game. There's going to be people who hate any game. There's going to be people who have problems with the price, and that's justified if you don't feel this is worth $70. Like, maybe you did buy it, maybe you thought that it wasn't a $70 game, maybe you don't want to pick it up because you don't see it as worth $70. That's totally fine. But credit where credit is due. Nintendo or Game Freak, I keep saying Nintendo, but Game Freak and technically part of Koei Tecmo developed this, set out to make a new type of game and one of the biggest IPs that Nintendo has, and they apparently knocked it out of the park, so good on them for that. So let me know, if you've played this game, what are your thoughts on it? As someone who is not a big Dragon Quest Builders fan and not a big Pokemon fan, could you recommend it to someone like me? Do you feel that it's worth the price? Do you feel that maybe for $60 would be worth it, maybe $50 if it goes on sale? I'd love to hear your thoughts about this in the comments, and be sure to subscribe.